Welcome to the Lowe Post podcast, where the NBA season is 4 or 5 some days away, and to help us preview it, let me bring up the bios. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with these people. Let's see. Between them, they have written New York Times best-selling novels, created a television show, created maybe one of the 10 most popular podcasts in the history of Earth, and most importantly, they were my colleagues at Grantland.com. I'm wearing the hoodie for those of you who are not watching me on YouTube. Shea, Serrano, Jason Concepcion. Yes. How are you?
What up, baby boy?
Much better now to be here with you.
You are now the co-hosts of a podcast called Six Trophies.
That's right.
Which is going to come out every Wednesday, wherever you get your podcast. Wondery is the thing, whatever, the company.
That's right. The thing. Yeah.
The idea is every week you are going to hand out a series of trophies. There's 6 regular trophies that all have pop culture references. I'm like 50-50. I get some of them I don't. One of them is the Catalina wine mixer one. That one made me laugh. One of them is a Fast and Furious reference that I have not seen any of the Fast and Furious movies. One of them is Daniel Plainview saying, I abandoned my child. And I was laughing on the Metro North train listening to. You're going to give out these are people who won the week, lost the week, people you're giving up on, and then 6 little trophies that are going to change every week. There are 2 episodes out, I believe. They are both wonderful, not surprising. And it's going to be about the NBA every single week. So congratulations, guys. Thanks for, it's really, it's smart because it's such an empty space, the NBA podcast.
Yeah, that's what we were thinking.
It's just a void that's been waiting to be filled.
Yeah, that's exactly what we talked about. But like, where could they use the voice of 2 more dudes? Oh, I know. Talking about the NBA. Let's do it.
Well, first of all, also Jason coming off the happiest Knicks year in a long time, already making predictions that the 3rd seed is coming to Madison Square Garden. We're going to talk about that. And Shea hijacking, I'm going to say 30% of the first episode to talk about Victor Wembanyama. It's just going to be an incredible exuberance from both of you. You excited for the season?
Oh, I could not be more excited.
All right, we're going to just go some goofy questions with you guys.
Yes, please.
First of all, on your debut episode, each of you made 3 predictions. This is about 12 days ago, 10 days ago, something like that. And 10 days have passed. A lot can happen in the NBA in 10 days.
So
I want to test your confidence levels in these predictions. We'll start with Shea Serrano. Predicted that the Phoenix Suns, with no point guard and Yusuf Nurkic as their starting center, and a bench so anonymous to all but people like me, NBA nerds, that they were all collectively just unnamed in the entire analysis of the Phoenix Suns. There was no one actually named. The words Keita Bates Diop did not come out of anybody's mouth. The Suns would beat the Bucks in the final. Shea Serrano, 10 days later, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling more confident than ever, sir. They look good. 3-1 in the preseason. That's a good winning percentage for me. I'll take it.
Jason, you did not make a finals prediction on that episode. How do you feel about Shea's finals prediction? Is he going to go 0 for 2, 1 for 2, 2 for 2?
I don't want to make a prediction on top of a prediction. That's too much of a prediction Russian nesting doll. I will say I have a low amount of confidence in particular that Phoenix Suns prediction. Having watched a lot of
Wizards. Beats them? Who? The Denver Nuggets, the reigning champs?
I just think Bradley Beal is like your starting point guard. It feels like a thing that you wouldn't do unless you had to. It'd be like if I used my PlayStation as my full-time television. I'm doing that. I'm doing that not because it's a good idea. I'm doing it because I don't have any other option. And I just feel like eventually that option will be revealed to be not a great one.
How many texts do you think Shea is going to send you? I know you guys have a text chain that just goes like per Spurs game that are just like, if you're not watching the game, it'll just be like profanity. It'll just be profanity. Like, holy crap.
You know what? He's got a lot of self-control. I am usually the one who sends the Wemby clip, the Wemby, the nutmeg clip is the most recent one.
The nutmeg happened while I was on the train last night. Stuck on the train because of police activity at a station between New York and Connecticut. And I watched the nutmeg. I watched 20 different Twitter people. Yeah. I just wanted to keep watching it. It was so ridiculous.
What can you say?
This guy tweeted it now. I'm so excited.
And I appreciate the self-control from Shea. But honestly, what can you say about him? It's truly amazing, the things we are watching now, and the fact that this is just the beginning is just mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling.
Jason, you predicted in your predictions exchange that the Knickerbockers of New York City,
that's right,
would earn the 3rd seed in the Eastern Conference, presumably behind Milwaukee and Boston, I'm guessing.
That's right. That's right.
How do you feel 10 days later after watching some Julius Randle in Skechers dunking all over Mike, not in Skechers?
Listen, this prediction kind of hinges on the continuing chaos within the Philadelphia 76ers organization, which actually brings me into conflict with one of my other predictions that James Harden will remain a Sixer, or maybe not. I also, listen, a guy can dream, right? I believe in dreams. I believe in hopes. I wouldn't be here speaking with the great Zach Lowe today, with 4-time New York Times bestselling author Shea Serrano, if I didn't believe in dreams, if I didn't have a dream. I have a dream, and that is that the New York Knicks will come off of a playoff appearing season with another playoff appearance as a 3rd seed. And I just have that dream. It's one I've had since a little child, and I will continue to believe in it. I believe in Dante DiVincenzo. I believe in Jericho Sims. I believe in Julius Randle.
Jericho Sims. Getting the second I believe in. It's Jericho Sims. I believe
in Grimes. I believe in Quickly. I kind of believe in RJ Barrett, and I just believe in this team. Wow. Tom Thibodeau has won me over, and I just feel like there's a lot of upheaval in the Eastern Conference, a lot of question marks. Why not the Knicks as the 3rd seed?
Here's Tom Thibodeau's response to your prediction. What the Jason? What? Oh, you don't know. Now all this pressure is going to be on us. Why can't you just shut the up? Ice, get him. He's gonna be so mad about all of that. It's gonna be great. I don't think this is a ridiculous prediction at all. In fact, I will go so far as to say Knicks and Cavs are going to be 3 and 4 in the Eastern Conference.
Let's go!
In that order necessarily, but that's my prediction. Shea Serrano, this one needs further elaboration because I feel like it was a little reckless.
Oh, I know this one already.
By the end of the season, Anthony Edwards will be considered a top 8 player in the NBA. I felt like 8 was kind of just chosen at random. So I'm just going to read you 7 names.
Okay.
These are names of players in the NBA in no particular order, but these are 7. So after 7 comes 8. Luka Doncic, Stephen Curry, Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum, Joel Embiid. That's 7. Yeah. So if Anthony Edwards is 8, he's either better than one of those guys by the end of the year, or he's better than LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Devin Booker, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Damian Lillard, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, or Jimmy Butler. Do you stand by this prediction, sir?
I stand by this prediction. He's going to make the leap. He has all of the tools. As I mentioned in the show, they're all right there. He just needs to find a little snap. Like when you put in the Legos together and there's a little gap in there and you just close it shut. That's all he needs. He's going to be there, is my guess. That's a guess. I believe I'm on the Anthony Edwards train.
Maybe the thing that gives him the opening is Karl-Anthony Towns moving somewhere. Maybe they move him and all of a sudden they hand the keys to Ant And who knows where Cat could end up.
Let me pitch you on this, Jason.
Yeah.
Emmanuel quickly.
Yep.
Evan Fournier's expiring contract.
He's looked great in the preseason.
Unbelievable. I love how the Evan Fournier mutiny has now expanded to other French players with no connection to the Knicks going to war on his behalf.
Yeah.
Where's Mikhail Petrus says
yes.
Evan Fournier really needs to play more.
Roddy Boubois has come back to say what's going on with Evan Fournier.
Evan Fournier, Emmanuel quickly, other matching salary that's not RJ Barrett, and 5 first-round picks. Sure. 3 from other teams, so they're like the top whatever protected from Washington, not top whatever protected from Detroit, bad ones, and 2 Knicks picks for Karl-Anthony Towns.
I think you seriously consider it.
Do it.
I think you seriously consider it. Listen, Cat has said some really insane things for the last 12 months, but he's still just a killer offensive big. At one time, I think you could have made, I said this with Shea, you could have made the argument, and I think a bit of, there was a lot of evidence to back up the argument. He was the best offensive big man in the league for a period of time. I still think he's really good. And why not? I would lean yes, depending on other players being out there that not being on the table.
Okay. There could be other players better than Karl Towns that become available after Karl Towns that you may take yourself out of. What if Tim Connolly says, you know what? We're almost there. I gotta have Barrett.
I would probably
who came 8 guys after Jericho Sims in the I Believe in These Knicks monologue.
Yeah.
Well, RJ is a jack of a lot of trades and probably like a master of none, I think, to be fair to him, but like a solid player. I'd probably say yes, honestly. This is, again, assuming that the Knicks reasonably believe that Karl is the best player that is available to them.
I don't know. I do think he's a very strong change of scenery. Trade lit a fire under my ass to care about the things I haven't cared enough about in the NBA.
Back home in the New York, New Jersey area.
Yeah, I think even if he stays in Minnesota the whole year, he's going to have, it's not a vengeance season because he's not exactly avenging any injustice. Yeah. The criticism of Karl-Anthony Towns, particularly in the playoffs, is just. I think he's going to have a good season. Anthony Edwards won't be a top 8 player. I can't get there with you. Jimmy Butler, by the way, just robbed in ESPN's NBA rank. How can people watch that guy in the playoffs and think he's the 13th best player in the NBA? He's not.
You know why? You know why? Because I think we are all involved in a very complex and subtle conspiracy to underrate Jimmy Butler, because we all understand that he's better when he's got that fire under him. It's better when he's an underdog. It's better for the league when no one believes in Jimmy, because he just takes it up several notches to prove everybody wrong. And that's better for everybody.
I gave you guys some random questions, and I think this is going to be representative of how your podcast is going to go. You're going to go rapid fire through these trophies of who won the week, who lost the week. You did your first episode, who won the offseason, the Bucks and Dame Lillard. Who lost the offseason? You guys were very, very down on the Miami Heat in that one. They got I believe it was the Lauryn Hill, you might win some, but you just lost one award that the Miami Heat got. It's a great trophy. We'll start with you, Shea. Who is the player in NBA history, past or present, that you inexplicably hate for just no good reason? You just hate their face, you hate their game, whatever it is.
Rick Fox. The early 2000 Lakers, Rick Fox. Hate him. He's peddling right now climate-friendly concrete. Like, that's his thing he's doing. And I'm like, I'm going to buy an 18-wheeler and just drive it around to offset the good that Rick Fox is doing in the community. I'm going to carbon offset him with an 18-wheeler.
Is that a Spurs Lakers thing, or is it just like no one should be able to play in the NBA and be this handsome and successful in every part of life thing?
He's good at everything. His teeth are perfect. His face is perfect. He's a winner. He's tall and he's fit. It just made me mad.
Sports pioneer. Yeah.
All of the things.
Even my wife, who knows next to nothing about basketball, is like, man, in high school, I think I had a poster of Rick Fox in my bedroom.
When he was with the Celtics, Rick Fox.
Jason, do you have an answer to this question?
Chris Mullin. He was mean. He was mean to me and my friends at a deli in Long Island when we were like little kids. That's all. But it's like, honestly, I'm over it. Chris, I'm over it.
What did he? You have so many outlets that you've probably told this story and I missed it. What did he? Did he cut you in line?
I think we wanted an autograph, but we were being jerks about it, and we were kind of like. I'm not sure that I 100% recognized him, and I think we were just being kind of pestering kids to him, and he didn't give us an autograph, and so now I hold a small grudge against Chris Mullin.
He and Tim Hardaway were my on the Warriors were my NBA Jam team.
Yes.
NBA Jam.
Yeah, great NBA Jam team.
I would just jack threes. Tim Hardaway wouldn't even get to shoot. It would just be like, let's get Chris on fire and just shoot threes.
If it wasn't Starks and Knicks, it was Starks and Ewing. It was Peyton and the Rain Man for me.
All right, Jason, we'll flip the order and start with you. Most random, so not Knicks, not like a team we're all super excited to watch, like Dame and the Bucks, just like random team that for some reason you're obsessed with watching this year.
I mean, Shea has like pointed out that it's weird that I'm interested in this, but I'm like really interested in the Wiseman Marvin Bagley battle for the backup center. The Pistons. I can't explain it. I just am fascinated by it. And I'm gonna be paying attention for some weird reason. I thought it was like a normal thing to be interested in, but apparently it's not. And
what if the answer is I think this might be the answer to start the season. They just play together a lot, or does that make it better or worse?
I think it makes it better. And that's so cool. Like, great. I'm rooting for both of them.
My favorite stat of the James Wiseman Pistons era, in 24 games for the Pistons, he had 16 assists. So 16 is less than 24, so less than one a game, and 37 turnovers. You know how hard that is to do when you like kind of don't pass at all and you still have 37 turnovers in 24 games and you don't play that much? Pistons are going to be it's going to be an interest. I'll watch them. Like Jaden Ivey's cool. Cade Cunningham's cool. They have 9 centers. That's kind of weird. Cool. I'm in.
I am just there for the battle between Wiseman and Marvin Bagley. It legitimately, that is why I will be watching them for no other reason.
So this is crazy, but I already recorded this, but it's coming up later in the podcast. I had Kevin Clark on to talk about the Magic and the bottom of the East. And we were talking about random jerseys you see in the wild that make you want to ask the person, like, how, why? I was walking down, I think 3rd Avenue in New York a couple days ago, and I saw a guy coming at me with a Marvin Bagley Sacramento Kings jersey. And I was like, just how did this happen? Shea, your team.
I think in part this is because they were the second to last when they were calling the order for the draft. They got the second pick. I find myself quietly rooting for the Charlotte Hornets. I'm like curious to see what they do. I really like watching LaMelo play. He's been one of my favorite players in the league. He's like one of my league pass guys. So put me down to see what's going on in Charlotte.
Okay. I mean, they have some players. LaMelo's good. Yeah. I am buying all the LaMelo, not all of it, but I think people have forgotten about LaMelo because he only played 20-something games last year. And he's kind of like a wild, weird player. Like, it just feels so chaotic. Can it translate to like real playoff basketball? I just keep saying 6'7", can shoot like that, and is a genius passer. Like, you can't find that very often.
Right.
So
exactly. Exactly.
Let's go with this. Shea, do you have a rule change you would make in the NBA if you were commissioner? Like immediately,
oh my God.
you could be anything.
Before I got off the phone right now, I would remove charges. No more charges. You want to run through a player, run through a player. I'm banning charges.
It was a hot button topic last postseason with with John Morant getting injured, and
it's terrible. Don't do that. This is how much I don't like it. Is it just happened? The Spurs just did it, and normally everything the Spurs do, I'm like, yeah, that's the right thing to do. But the Spurs defender, I think it was Doug. Doug slid under a big dunk, and the guy dunked it, and they still called the charge. And I was like, that was not right. Get it out of here. I don't want it. At least on dunks. No, thank you.
Well, who just had the big dunk in preseason? The Spurs drew the charge.
Yeah.
The Rockets guy, right?
Yeah.
Amin Thompson. I think it was a great. Or no, Cam Whitmore. It was Cam Whitmore. RJ was fired up about that, and in true RJ fashion, Richard Jefferson, he's fired up about that call, but he really only wants to talk about it because it reminded him of a dunk that he did in his career that got called as a charge. Like, so let me show this on TV. Here's me at age 35 dunking on some poor guy, I don't know who it was, and I called him out on the show. I was like, Richard, this is just like a scam that you've created to show you dunking. Now that you're an old, uncool dad, former player, he's way cooler than I could ever be. Jason, what's the rule change that you have? Give me a good one.
Okay, I'll give you a good one because I said I've been asked this before, and I said the advantage rule in football/soccer. I think the NBA really should add that. Here's one. People have pitched this before, but I have a wrinkle on it. Relegation. I think you take the worst, the worst one, maybe two NBA teams, right? And they go down to the G League. Here's why it would work, and here's my wrinkle. First of all, I think it's 27 NBA teams own their own G League team. You don't actually change the entire team, like take the Adam Silver has said it would be so disruptive because, the G League teams are not prepared to compete. You just make the team change jerseys. They have to wear their G League team's jerseys for the entire season. They have to take all the branding. It has to be the G, so the Knicks become the Westchester Knicks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you don't actually make the players go down to the G League. They stay, but you take all the branding and you flip it. I think it's compelling. I think it ends tanking immediately.
Are you disqualified from the NBA standings for that season? Like if you finish 7th, do you just still not make the play in and somebody else makes the play in instead of you?
Yes.
Do you just participate in the season with bad G League jerseys? That's it. So the Pacers become the Fort Wayne Mad Ants.
That's right.
There's walking
That's
around.
Correct. Yes. You have to wear their jerseys. You have to change all the signage, all the branding, all the commercials. Everything has to be the G League team. And that's how relegation would work in the NBA. I think it would be great. I think people would love it. And I honestly believe it would end tanking.
Shea, is there a player in the NBA who just makes you laugh accidentally?
I think before I answer that, I would like to address when you set Jason up. You said, "Give me a good one, Jason." The implication being that my rule change was awful. And
no, it's not awful. It's just I wanted wackier, and he delivered wackier.
Oh,
you took it seriously. You were like, I have a basketball answer to this question. It would really improve game flow. Let me run it by the game ops guys in the NBA. I'll give you an example of a player who made me laugh. The way Mitch McGary ran. Remember Mitch McGary?
Yes.
Down the court, of Cruz and Will Ferrell running into, and that every time I watch him, I laugh.
Zach, do you remember this? This was several years ago. This is when I was still teaching. And I sent you an email one day. So this is 2014, 2013. And I was like, hey, let me ask you a question. Is it against the rules for if we're on offense, we're on defense, we leave one player on the other end of the court, and he just waits there so that when the other team shoots and misses, we get the ball, we rebound it, and we throw it down court. And you emailed me back in like 10 seconds, and you were like, who have you been talking to? Why do you know about this? And I was like, oh, I was talking because I coached the 7th grade basketball team, and like I want to try this strategy. And you had like some inline to a team that I think it was the Sacramento Kings.
Vivek Ranadive wanted to try cherry picking, and Michael Malone was like, hey, buddy, stay in your lane. We're not doing that.
Yeah, that was like 10 seconds to respond back. I thought I was in trouble. I was like, oh, I don't know what's going on. No, I'm talking about 7th graders here. A player who just makes me laugh is Tyrese Maxey. I don't know what it is about the way that he plays. He's just so all over the place everywhere that I really enjoy it. Good or bad, whatever he's doing, I just am happy. I find myself smiling watching Tyrese Maxey when he has the ball or when he's trying to get the ball or when he's not even engaged in a play. He just makes me happy.
Jason, do you have a player who makes you laugh?
Alvarado. He reminds me of.
Oh, good one.
You know, he reminds me so much of Pablo Prigioni, Knicks legend Pablo Prigioni, and the way he would just like lurk in someone's like blind spot and then all of a sudden appear out of nowhere to steal the ball. Chris Paul got so mad. Like he just makes people
He wouldn't even
mad.
say his name. He wouldn't even
say his name. And it's just so funny to me. It's so funny.
That's a great one.
There were a lot of think pieces in 2013 and 2014 about how Mike Woodson needs to play Pablo Prigioni more.
Yeah.
The plus minus was just off the charts with Prigioni in the game.
I was one of those people. I think part of the problem was that Prigioni was like 38 or whatever it was.
That's back when you were just a corgi on
anonymous
Twitter.com.
Anonymous Twitter person.
So 6 trophies. Let's just end with this. Every Wednesday, right? And it's going to be it's going to be kind of like Jason used to have NBA Desktop, which was just the greatest 9 to 11 minutes of my week. Every week I would sit and watch it. I was able to go on it a couple times. You remember you had the spicy take segment, and you cornered me at the Sloan conference. You're like, I need a spicy take. I need a spicy take right now. And I panicked. Do you remember what my spicy take was?
I don't remember.
Christopher Nolan is overrated. You like?
I honestly, a mainstream take. It's a mainstream take. It has, I guess up until Oppenheimer was kind of a mainstream take for me.
I haven't seen Oppenheimer yet. Yeah. What else do you guys want the world to know about this podcast? I mean, the first 2 episodes are predictably hilarious, rapid fire. It's the kind of thing. It's like if you're like a 6 to 7 level of interest on one topic,
yes,
you just there's a 10 coming right around the corner. Just stick with it. That's the format.
It comes out every Wednesday. It's incredibly funny. And it's very accessible. Like, listen, you're not gonna get buried under cap minutia. Nobody's gonna test your knowledge of the trade machine or the new CBA. It's gonna be really, really fun. And we are gonna have experts on that do that stuff, and then we're gonna torture them endlessly.
That feels right. Yes. Let's go with that.
All right. Well, you guys have been generous with your time. You have a lot of stuff going on this week. Shout out to Grantland. Both of you have been colleagues and friends for a long time. It's been awesome to watch your success from afar. This podcast is going to hit it out of the park. And thank you for making some time. 6 trophies, Wednesdays, wherever you get your podcasts. Go Knicks, go Spurs. Let's all have a fun NBA season.
Yeah.
All right. Meanwhile, we're 3 days away from an important deadline in the NBA, the deadline for the first-round picks from 2020 to sign contract extensions. Several of them already have, mostly the big names, plus Devin Vassell, and for some reason, Isaiah Stewart, seemingly 2 years ago. Bobby Marks, we're going to go rapid fire through this group. Are you ready?
I am ready. Let's go.
It is a weird climate where the cap is going to explode in the near future. There's a new CBA. And in the immediate future, there's not that many teams with cap space this coming summer. There are a few, including like a team like Orlando will have a bonanza of cap space. So you're going to have a lot of these players who are like, or you're going to have a lot of teams who are, because they're cautious and they know they have the cudgel of restricted free agency and not that many teams with cap space and nervousness about the CBA, saying, well, go out and get something bigger than the mid-level exception, which is going to be $13 million this coming summer. We'll go out in restricted free agency. And then there's going to be a lot of players who are like, if the mid-level exception is $13 million and a bunch of other teams with no cap space are going to have that, why am I going to take anything even close to that? And I think you're going to get this stalemate, or we have right now a stalemate in a lot of cases. But Bobby, deadlines have a way of solving stalemates. So let's go down. We're just going to go rapid fire through the draft. Are you ready?
Yeah. Let's go.
Anthony Edwards, done. James Wiseman.
No. I don't see it. I just think, listen, they got him in the February trade deadline. I think they need another another year of body of work for Wiseman, unless you're going to get him on the cheap, which is like an $8 to $9 million contract.
It's a no. It's a why. Just why. Yeah. Like, and to your point, the Peyton Pritchard deal was an interesting one. 4 years, 30, I think.
Yeah,
with Boston.
30. Yeah.
And there were some people around the league who are like, well, I'm not even sure Boston should have done that. My reaction was kind of like, no harm, no foul. He's going to be in the rotation this year. What's the worst that can happen? It's a John Conchar, Nasir Little. Like, it doesn't even matter if these level of $6 million, $7 million deals don't pan out. But like, why is James Wiseman going to, I mean, I guess you could take that if they offer it to him. I don't even know why they would, given he's done essentially nothing in the NBA. He is one of there are several players that we're going to get to that could say, you know what, I'm in a position to actually get a lot more minutes this year. I'm going to bet on myself. There are also players who we're going to get to who are maybe in a position to not get as many minutes this year as they've been accustomed to. And their teams may say, maybe you shouldn't bet on yourself. You sure you don't want to take this? We'll get to some. Patrick Williams. LaMelo Ball is done. Patrick Williams at 4.
No, but if it is, it will be like a Monday deadline deal. I think when you look at it with Williams, I mean, him and DeMar DeRozan are two big questions for them as far as where you go in the future. You just signed the Lean last year, Vooch this off season, for more of a body of work last year. I don't see it. I don't see it right now for him.
This is one, and we're going to get to a second one, that I think the Devin Vassell deal was kind of a grenade into these negotiations. Vassell got what, 30 a year-ish?
Yeah, 5 for 135, and then
28, 27, whatever it is. I'm hearing Patrick Williams wants big numbers. Like starts with a 2 and isn't 2-0 kind of stuff, potentially.
Well, here's the one thing, though. You have to look at it. So basically, that's 50% of what the max could be for a guy signing a max contract, where the cap's going to go.
If it's 20, if it's 25 or 26 or 27,
that's a little different.
And look, I get your point is well taken, and it's why I thought the Vassell deal was both a deal he was fine to take. It's security beyond what he ever dreamed of, given he played 38 games last year, and also a deal that could age fine for the Spurs. It could just be a mutually beneficial fine contract. Devin Vassell averaged almost 19 points a game last year, and he's a proven knockdown shooter. I understand that teams in these contracts are paying for future production, not past production. If I'm going to give you like $100 million, I'd like to have some past production. Like, have you done something in the NBA that's worth Patrick Williams has done some stuff, but like, that's just, if that's the number, if that ends up being true and the Vassell deal ends up being the comp that his agents go to, which is what I would do if I were them, that's a lot of cheese, and like, go to restricted free agency and get it.
Yeah. I mean, he played all 82 games last year, career high, 10.2 points, 41% from 3 for his career.
I'm a card carrying member of the, I'll never be out on Patrick Williams. I just don't know if I want to be that in right now.
Yeah, I'm not $25 million per year in.
Here's a 5th pick, a guy that falls into that mid-level exception, cuts both ways trap that I talked about before. Isaac Okoro.
Yeah, is going to likely come off the bench, right? Has started 174 out of 210 games in the first 3 seasons. Max Strus now looks like is the starter, right? With that group in Cleveland. He is if you could do something, I don't think unless he comes in at a 12 to $13 million number, 4 for 52 is a nice number. That's the number for guys coming off the bench, right?
Mid-level.
Like
that's
mid-level,
essentially
number.
a mid-level deal. And I could see Okoro and his people saying, well, why would I take that? I can get the mid-level in the offseason. But, look, and he could have a big year. Like, they're going to need his defense. He shot 36% on threes last year. Doesn't take any. Nobody guards him, so it doesn't really matter. He can do some stuff, and he might do more stuff this year. He also might do less stuff this year. And the Cavs are really the first team we're getting to now that have to look at the finances years ahead under this new CBA and say, well, we've got 3 bona fide stars that we'd like to pay, including Evan Mobley in that star moniker. Can we afford to give role players hefty double-digit contracts? I think some teams are more hesitant about that. Other teams are going to say, we may need those contracts as trade assets because the rules are going to be so hard for us to trade if we hit the first apron, the second apron, that they could be useful. So we'll see. Now we get to my most interesting one so far. Onyeka Okongwu, the 6th pick in the draft. And we might as well also do Saddiq Bey, the 19th pick in the draft. The Atlanta Hawks, who extended DeJounte Murray on a great deal, but have just the luxury tax crunch from hell coming next year if they re-sign both of these guys and don't flip another big salary. Saddiq Bey is a guy who we talked about, guys who could see their minutes go down. I think Jalen Johnson is in line to start this year, and Saddiq Bey may be in line to come off the bench after being a starter most of his career. Okongwu is coming off the bench, but is clearly kind of the future at center for the Hawks. These are tricky ones. What do you think?
Well, these are tricky ones. These are ones where if you extend them, you better have a good comfort level that you're going to move the Clint Capella contract. That, it's something in that nature, because you look at their finances. They moved John Collins in a salary dump. They're still committed to $148 million next year. The luxury tax projected at $172. So that gives you basically $24 million to play with between 2 players. So you extend both. Saddiq Bey, 18 to 20. I mean, is that, we're looking at, as this cap grows, that number could be potentially higher. Capella's under contract for 2 more years at 20 per. So he would basically have 1 year left on him. These are 2 players. I think these are like circumstances. If they were with a different team under different finances, I could say, yes, circle both players here. But I think if you're Atlanta, you're kind of like, well, wait a minute. Let's see where we go next year. I mean, the finances are going to still be there unless you move one of these high DeAndre Hunter, Clint Capella, those type players there.
18 to 20 is an interesting conversation with Saddiq Bey because it's enough above the mid-level that he's got to think about it. I've heard those negotiations have not been going great. I don't think Atlanta's gotten to that level yet. And Saddiq Bey is one of those players, kind of like DeAndre Hunter, who looks like a good NBA player. He's rangy, he's big, shoots it okay from 3. And then you look and you watch plays like, what does he do? Doesn't defend very well, doesn't pass, doesn't rebound. Okay shooter, not a big-time scorer on a good team. Put up some numbers for the Pistons, had a 50-point game. Remember that?
Yeah.
50-point game against the Magic. It's like, what is he actually good at? And then he might come off the bench this year. If I had to pick one to, if you're asking me if I'm the Hawks, I can't get either one for less than $20 million, but I really want to pay one just to do it. I would pay Okongwu, which is counter to how the game is trending in terms of bigs versus wings. I just think Okongwu is good. Killian Hayes.
No, I know he's had a nice preseason.
No, we don't need to say anything else.
Oh,
a bet on yourself guy, Obi Toppin.
It's funny.
From no minutes behind Randall to starting at the 4 in a system that should really benefit him,
really help him.
I could see him saying, if you're not offering me like something good, I'm just gonna go.
Totally agree with you. I think the system fits great for him. This is a guy who, if this trade was a year ago and he was entering an extension year off of playing for the Pacers for a full year, I could say yes. But I think this is a no. I think him and Aaron Naismith, I think both those guys kind of played out.
Naismith's interesting because I could see something happen in there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe like in that 9 to 10 range.
Yeah.
Like that kind of like that utility guy type.
He was the 14th pick in this draft, by the way. So we've done Naismith. But then the competition for minutes behind Toppin is really, really strong. You've got the Walker kid they just drafted, a whole bunch of backup centers, and Jalen Smith, whatever he ends up being for them, and Naismith and somebody I'm even forgetting off the top of my head. It's a crowded group. Obi's an interesting one because, again, it could just be that mid-level trap. Like, if you want to take something close to the mid-level, sure. Why would I do that? I don't know. It depends on the player. Jalen Smith. I'm sorry, we missed Denny Avdia.
I don't see it. I don't see it. I just think, with new front office there, new management, unless you're another guy you're going to get on the cheap, I just think you're going to play out the season and see where this goes.
It could be tough talk 72 hours out because of the lack of teams with cap space, because of the CBA uncertainty, coupled with the cap, not uncertainty, but sort of how much is it going to rise and how fast. There do seem to be a lot of teams that are like, if you're just an okay player with an okay track record anyway, we're cool. Like letting you. Austin Reeves is a name I've heard a lot. Look what happened to Austin Reeves. Nobody came through with the offer sheet, and he got back to the Lakers on a deal that is insanely team friendly. And by the way, Coulibaly has started most of the preseason games for the Wizards. He might actually start actual games over Avdia. I'm with you. Jalen Smith is fine, whatever. We don't need to talk about him. Kyra Lewis. I like Kyra Lewis. I got a soft spot. Do we need to talk about him?
No.
Karl-Anthony, it falls into your minutes may drop a little bit category with all the competition internally. I don't know what if they view him as a potential trade asset, extending him now would complicate that, correct?
Yeah, with poison pill restriction.
Are you a no?
I'm a no. Yeah, I think just guard heavy. That's more of a played out.
Beef stew got done. Yep. Just a curious deal timing wise.
Yeah, you never see July. I think that was right around Summer League. Summer League had broke right around there. You never see July extensions. Keldon Johnson a year ago. Usually see him right the weekend leading up into the deadline. But that was interesting. The timing was a little bit interesting there.
Speaking of Spurs, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, not a rookie class extension. I would keep an eye on Zach Collins.
Yes,
as a
I've heard it multiple times.
Veteran extension candidate. If we had the budget for like sad music, we would cue it up right now.
I'm trying to think where are we going here?
Alexei Pokusevsky.
Oh, yeah, I don't see it. Sorry.
Very interesting one. And again, could just be in this mid-level trap of like, we'll offer you something around there. You may not take it because what's the point? Josh Green, Dallas Mavericks.
What's crazy with him is that I have it here. Luka's been the only guy that's been since 2008. Luka is the only rookie coming off his rookie contract who has signed an extension.
With the Mavericks.
In Dallas, yeah. 40% on threes, 60% on twos last season.
Selective shooter, Bobby. I joked in my league pass rankings. He might run a dribble handoff with invisible players. Like he just might get the hand. Oh, nobody's here. Anyone want to come get the ball? A player I like. He's a creative player. He's a good passer. You can catch and go if you close out on him. He's a good defender. Like I think they should start him over Omax to start this. If they're serious about winning, and they have to be, I think they should start Josh Green.
I agree with you. I mean, 160 million in salary next year. They only have 3.
You're saying they should offer Josh Green $160 million a year?
No, I
Is that
don't.
what you're
I think
arguing?
they need to worry about the luxury tax next year. But I do think he's another guy in that mid-level. I don't think he's I think he's a 13, $14 million guy.
All of these cases to me, almost for both sides, though a little bit more for the team, are just, why not just take this into the summer? Like what do we have to gain from this?
Yeah.
A player that is going to be the JV version of my Pat Williams, I'll never be out. Precious Achiuwa.
Yeah.
If I were the Raptors, he's the guy I might like. A lot of people have forgotten about him. Super disappointing season last year, particularly offensively. Fell out of the rotation or to the fringes at lots of points. I would go back to him and see if I could lock him up for something between the Peyton Pritchard deal and this mid-level deal we're talking about. His people may be insulted by that. That's cool. Like, the guy didn't play well last year and is like a bench or a back-end rotation player, 8th, 9th guy, whatever. I would sign him to that kind of deal if I were the Raptors. I don't know if he would take it, but I would go to him with it.
Well, yeah. I mean, here's the concern from his end. His minutes dropped from 23-6 to 15-7 after the Pirtle trade. So where is that going to go? Now we got a new coach there. Is that going to be the continual? Is he going to be a 16-minute player? Now you're looking at backup center money in that $7 to $8 million range. And are you going to get more next year as a restricted free agent?
I still like, I think the shooting piece from 2 seasons ago was interesting, and I'd like to see him replicate that. He's got a real catch and go driving game if you close out on him. He's about as switchy as they come defensively. Like, he's a legit plus defensive player. Maybe he wouldn't even entertain this kind of deal. I don't know. Maxey, I think they've kind of telegraphed we're going for cap space. Sorry, Tyrese.
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, he would have been, if we weren't dealing with cap space and cap holds, he would have been extended probably on July 1st with the rest of those guys.
Look, I mean, if there's one thing we know, Bobby, well thought out plans always come to fruition with the Philadelphia 76ers. Like, everything they plan in advance ends up working out exactly as they planned it out. So this will definitely work, and with no repercussions, everything will work out fine. Interesting. Yep. A bet on yourself, because he's finally going to get minutes this year. Zeke Naji. If you're the Nuggets, what would you offer Zeke Naji today? What do you call Zeke Naji's agent? And what's a fair deal that he actually might take?
4 for 27.
He's not going to take that. I thought you were going to, because that's Peyton Pritchard, right? That's the comp you're going to make. That's a little less than Peyton Pritchard. Actually.
Same agent that had Nasir Little, who took 4 for 28.
Yep. And there's he's got another guy. Well, Christian Wood took the minimum.
Yep.
Adam Pensack is the agent.
Yep.
I mean, if they could get him 4 for 27, that's like, I think Zeke Naji is going to play this year.
Yep.
Very switchable, can shoot. Defensively, he's got to get stronger when he's on bigger players underneath the rim. Can be a little wild offensively, but I like Zeke Naji. I'm not taking 427. If you came to me with 440, maybe you assume a little bit
Robert
more of the
Williams
risk.
Money.
Yeah, but Robert Williams is hurt all the time, and like, that was a really good contract for the Celtics the minute they signed it, and it's a good contract now for the Blazers. Bolmaro, no. Hampton, he'll get minutes for the Heat. We're down to the 24th pick already.
Yeah.
Now we're going to get to a couple of meaty ones here at the end.
Ooh.
Emmanuel Quickly.
Yeah.
So 6th man of the year runner-up. I voted for him as 6th man of the year. Did just watch his team lose a power forward in Obi Toppin and add a guard in Dante DiVincenzo. So there's a little bit more of a crunch this year. Has not played well in the playoffs.
Right.
Looks at a market where it's like, okay, Orlando's got a lot of cap spaces. Am I fit there? I mean, Orlando's got some questions at guards. They also have some good young guards. Detroit's got cap space. They've got backcourt's pretty well stocked with young guys in Detroit. Washington, who the hell knows what they're going to do? The Spurs are not even going to have, they'll have a max slot-ish. They're going to use it on Emmanuel Quickly. I could see the Knicks making a solid offer that Quickly thinks is beneath him, and just say, okay, let's just reconvene in July. But I don't even know. I'm assuming the Knicks to even have a conversation have got to get to 20 a year at least, or else they're not picking up the phone.
Yeah, I wrote, and there's an extension article on ESPN.com, and I focused on Maxey, and we'll talk about Jane McDaniels in a minute. And quickly, those are three guys that I really focused on, and kind of why a deal will get done, why it won't, what the number would be, why. Certainly, Knicks have been aggressive with extensions, right? Randall, Barrett, Hart, three guys the last few years. Certainly, the body of work of quickly. The number I have is 4 for 83.
I bet he wouldn't take it. Maybe he would. I don't know. I haven't talked to his people.
Yeah, that's
how much. But that's a number like that's a fair offer.
Yeah,
that's a discussion for both sides.
Yeah, and I said why wouldn't he? Certainly two reasons, or why wouldn't hey, does New York look at him as one of their big trade chips during the year, right? Kind of you extend him, poison pill. Right, he's off the table, and does he look at what he's not going to get Devin Vassell money, but does he look at that and say, wait a minute, 80 total, 20 per, if I play, my minutes increase, or if I have a year like last year, can I get more here? That number, that 4 for 83 is comparable to what DeJounte Murray and Derek White signed with in San Antonio on their extensions based on where the cap is. That's kind of where that is.
Both demonstrably superior players to Emmanuel Quickley, and project to be and I like Emmanuel Quickley. How much does extending him quickly at that number? I don't have his salary in front of me. I assume it's like 3 or 4-ish this year, 4 or something.
Yeah.
How much does extending him at a number about 20 a year complicate if the Knicks found themselves in position to make a big trade this season? How much does the base year compensation thing hurt us?
It complicates it. It's not like a guy who signed a $35 million contract with basically off the board. Guys like Peyton Pritchard, that doesn't complicate it. Those guys in that $7 to $8 million range, because as the poison pill is basically, it's the average of your last year in your contract and the 4 year, whatever years of the extension. And that's the formula there as far as outgoing salary here. I think 20 would make it a little more difficult. There's only been one player traded who signed a rookie extension with the poison pill restriction, and that was Devin Harris. And that was us, or not us, but me in Brooklyn or New Jersey, when we did Jason Kidd trade back in, I think, 2007 or 2008. And Devin was on like an $8 million per year extension, and that made it a lot easier to move. But 20, I think 20 does complicate it a little bit more.
With apologies to Malachi Flynn, who may actually get minutes this year for the Raptors, let's go to the single meatiest extension negotiation in the NBA, and that's Jaden McDaniels.
Yeah.
Jaden McDaniels, from what I heard, was seeking, and good for him, he should, a large amount of money before Devin Vassell signed for a large amount of money. And if I'm Jaden McDaniels, I'm saying that dude got that, playing 38 games on a team with no stakes. Yeah, I didn't average 18 and a half a game, but I shot it well from 3. I'm already an all defense level player. You guys, Minnesota, all you people I'm negotiating with, the brass, expressed outrage that I didn't make an all defensive team. So you obviously agree that I'm one of the 10 best defense players in the NBA. Yeah, I punched a wall. Sorry. I'm essential to your team in a critical 2 or 3 year period. I'm a winning 3-and-D player, and watch me do a little bit more with the ball this year. Pay up 30. It's got to start with a 3. That's aggressive. I don't know what, I mean, and Minnesota's looking at like $190 million next year if they re-sign him for around 30. Without a point guard and without Kyle Anderson. I have no idea what the hell the Wolves are supposed to do with this. Do you just let this go to July?
Well, here's a couple things. Tim Connolly has been ultra aggressive, and he's come out and said it. Their president, when he was in Denver and now in Minnesota, he has extended Anthony Edwards, Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, Kenneth Faried, rookie extensions. And then another 8 players to veteran extension, including Towns and Jokic. Okay, so there is an aggressiveness there. This is what he told John Krasinski of The Athletic. In my experience in Denver and here, we like to reward people who earned it. Okay, so take that into consideration. But man, as I wrote, there is a financial wrecking ball coming. Like, it is coming as far as where they are with finances. You have 3 guys on max, super max: Edwards, Gobert, Towns, the Conley situation, who's going to be an unrestricted free agent. You have no point guard next year. You're going to be in a luxury tax on a big McDaniels number here. You're going to be in it now, or you're going to be in it next year unless you figure out your finances. Here's what my number is for Jaden McDaniels. And I'm looking at the Mikal Bridges number in Phoenix based on where the cap is now. Okay, not back then, with the percentage of the cap.
Not raw dollar for dollar match to Mikal Bridges.
This is what I would offer: 5 for 134.
Which works out to what? 26, 27, something like that?
Yep.
I bet he would say no. Well, I mean, you know what though? You say that, and first of all, you do hear players, including some of the guys that we've talked about. You do hear rumblings that they care about the $100 million mark, that they would like to hit the $100 million mark.
Yep.
I sit here and say 134. It's like the same thing with Vassell. I had some people tell me, as good as that deal was for the Spurs or for Vassell, they could have squeezed a little more. And you just want to say, squeeze a little more. The dude played 38 games last year and just got paid $136 million or whatever. Like, what more do you want? $134 million for Jaden McDaniels, who, you know, has barely been a double-digit scorer and punched a wall. It's hard to just be that cold and calculated about it. He may just, but that's a large number. And if there is an extension, it's going to be a large number.
Yeah, I just, it's, I think from Minnesota's perspective, it's like the problems you have now are going to be the problems next offseason, unless you're making a trade. Right? Like, your financial situation is your financial situation here. And he's a guy that, could he make more as a restricted free agent? Is there a team out there that would come in, with, as you said, there's, 8 or 9 teams with room, and it's basically the same teams we see every year: Detroit, Orlando, San Antonio, Oklahoma City.
He'd be fun in Detroit. Although the Thompson kid, we have to see what Asar Thompson does on the wing for them. Washington could use just anything and everything. All right, Bobby, that's it. We got through the whole first round. Thank you.
That's it. Yeah, I mean, listen, we're at 7 players that have been extended. The last 2 years, it's been 12 and 12. So we're trending down here. I think we're going to fall below that number. The average number we've seen the last couple of years. I think it's circumstances. Maxey could have, as you say, could have been in there. I think that's just that's where we are right now.
Bobby Marks, must read on ESPN.com, including about the rookie extensions all over the airwaves, everywhere at ESPN. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Zach.
All right, now it's time to get serious about the NBA season. Now it's time for the most important preview content that we have at ESPN.com. Little Disney synergy, because it's time to talk about my beloved, but nothing compared to Kevin Clark, no longer of the Ringer Omaha Productions, ESPN. You can see him on Around the Horn, the host of This Is Football, and one of 4, I think, true Orlando Magic fans that I know in life. How are you, Kevin?
Who are the other 3?
Nick Friedel, shout out Nick. Guy I met once at the airport. And maybe it's just 3, and really it's just you 2 and a guy. No, so someone who works in the NBA. I'll just call him Dan.
So I don't know if you know Jason McIntyre from Fox Sports, but one time I was walking through LAX and I had all this luggage. I'm going down, and Jason just yells, "Kevin!" And I look up and I see him. And I say hi, and I said, I had my magic hat pulled down to my ears or my eyes, and I said, how did you no, it was me. It was so far away. And he's like, well, I just saw a Magic hat and I figured odds are how many Magic hats in LA could there be? And so he just yelled my name.
So as a football person, that's your sport. And you're so good at what you do that I occasionally, knowing nothing, I don't even have surface level football knowledge anymore, but I will read and listen to you every now and then because I just find it so interesting. Do you ever see a jersey in real life that's so strange where you're like, I just need to stop this stranger and ask, like, how and why did you purchase this item?
In football life? Yeah, I'd say that you see that a lot, especially I go to a lot of preseason games and you'll see folks who just like show up and they've got the jersey from like 2003, the backup quarterback, or like in places like Cleveland or Chicago, the novelty is the sort of failed quarterback or the quarterback who only started for 3 games. There's a niche there that I think is important. The obscure jersey subculture is extremely important. So like I have a Ronnie Cycli Magic jersey, obviously. I'm trying to think of the other obscure jerseys that I have.
Why did you not wear the Ronnie Cycli jersey for this podcast? I mean, I can't imagine. I can't. That's a rough look in real life for most guys. The jersey, it's a tough look.
I have a Bo Outlaw jersey that I wear everywhere that fits me like a glove. Famously or unfamously, I had Bo Outlaw announce the arrival of my child on Twitter last year, so that all kind of came full circle. But the thing about Orlando is they were so bad. We can get into that when we talk a little bit about my favorite team, but they were so bad for so long that there wasn't a huge like there were a lot of obscure jerseys. You know, you could get Kelvin Cato, like Carlos Arroyo was a big jersey there for a couple of years. He was kind of a folk hero in Orlando.
It's cute to hear saying they were so bad.
But there was the second glory era. There was a second glory era where it's fine to have like a Hito jersey or a Rashard Lewis jersey, jersey. Sure. Yeah. But the problem was like it went Penny, Shaq, Dennis Scott, Nick Anderson. By the way, I have a Dennis Scott jersey I wear all the time. And then there was just nothing for a while. I mean, T-Mac obviously, but then they weren't good. They won a playoff series in 1996, 2008. So any jersey really was kind of an obscure jersey for a while.
I only asked because I was walking around New York the other day from meeting to meeting to meeting. So one of the things I miss living in the suburbs is just the daily, I got to sprint walk between 4 different meetings in New York City and timing. Like, all right, I got 15 street blocks and 2 avenue blocks and 13 minutes to do it. And can I do it? And I saw coming at me a Marvin Bagley III Sacramento Kings jersey. And I almost stopped the guy and was like, I'm willing to be 5 minutes late to this meeting because I just need to know, like, 2 years later, Detroit Pistons year number 2, still rocking the Marvin Bagley III jersey, just proudly down 3rd Avenue or so. But I didn't stop him. All right, Magic. So here's where we are, Kevin Clark. It's a big year for the Magic. You're excited.
Huge year.
We're going to talk about them. Here's how I have the East mapped out. All right. Because you're all in for the play-in, right? You're not getting your hopes too higher than that. You're not thinking top 6. You are all in for the play-in, 7 to 10, right?
That is my realistic expectation. If there's a huge leap and we can get to sort of the best case, worst case scenarios, I am taking dead aim at the play-in game.
Okay. Here's my very tentative top 7 in the East.
Sure.
Boston, Milwaukee, Cleveland, New York, Philadelphia, Miami, and then I have a soft spot for the Hawks. I don't know where I'm going to put them. I'm going to make that a group of 7. We could disagree if you want. I think the Hawks are going to have a good year. I'm a big Quinn Snyder believer. Now, if you want to tell me that forget the Hawks are kind of in their separate category, and the Zach Lowe just irrationally likes them Netherworld for no reason. If you want to tell me you're going to short one of the Knicks, the Heat, and the Sixers, they're just the Sixers. Obviously, there's just a constant show. James Harden was just reported mispractice again today, Thursday, due to personal reasons. I wonder what the personal reason is. Who knows? Could be anything.
That he's James Harden. The personal is that he's James Harden.
That's the person that he is. Yeah. James Harden. If you want to tell me that you short them and they have one of those 3 teams has a below expectations, that's fine. Those are my top 7. if that is the top 7 in some order, and it's not going to be, it's crazy stuff always happens. That leaves spots 8, 9, and 10, 3 spots. I have 5 teams fighting for 3 spots: Toronto, Brooklyn, Chicago, your Orlando Magic, and the Indiana Pacers. I had Charlotte there until the latest disturbing and harrowing Miles Bridges news, and now I'm just like, forget the basketball stuff is not important. Let's make that clear. This is a basketball podcast. There's just too much stuff going on in Charlotte. I'm putting them down a tier. So those are the teams you're competing with for 8, 9, 10. Toronto, Brooklyn, Chicago, Indiana, and the Magic. The Magic starting 5 is going to be Fultz, Suggs, Good, Wagner, Banchero, Carter. Bench, a little bit of a mystery. They'll be staggering some minutes, but they'll be your Karl-Anthony, Gary Harris. Jonathan Isaac is alive and playing basketball.
He's back. We're not only going to get Why I Stand by Jonathan Isaac and read it on here, we're going to get his conservative athleisure brand sweatpants, and we're going to wear them around Connecticut, buddy.
How do you know what? The question came into my brain, and then my brain said, move on. So I'm moving on. And Mo Wagner will be the backup center, and we'll see who else plays out of the Gary Harris, Joe Ingles, blah, blah, blah. So just we can go through the over-unders and the win projections, but just that grouping. Yeah. Is it disrespectful to the Orlando Magic right off the bat
to put them in that group?
Do you feel like I'm already too pessimistic? Are you more enthusiastic than
Well, I'll let you. I mean, listen, we're going to come at this from very different angles, and you can talk me off certain stances I have, certain corners I'm on, but I feel like Franz and Paolo are developing into. I'm not saying they're there now. I'm not saying they're going to be there this year. They're developing into the biggest mismatch duo maybe among young cores in the NBA. And I think there's a lot there. Like Franz, I can't stop watching Franz. Like my YouTube short algorithm is Norm Macdonald show clips and incredible. Attitude Era WWE like surprise returns, like Stone Cold coming back and everybody going crazy, and then Franz doing whatever. There's hundreds of different Franz clips are being fed to me every single day on YouTube, and I need hundreds more. I kind of feel like he's a basketball genius, and maybe this is like a stupid qualifier. I feel that Paolo is going to be the best player on the Magic. Franz is the most important to me in the rebuild because of all the different things he can do and where his career goes. What kind of player does he want to be? How does his scoring develop? I think it was Chris Mannix had a scout basically say that he didn't take the leap that they thought he should have last year. I completely disagree with that.
Can I just also use this moment as a media critic to say enough with the anonymous scouts. We need to stop the anonymous scout preview thing because they just say whatever they want. Do you have scouts being like, that guy sucks and he's a bad guy? And I'm like, okay, so anonymous scout guy, cool. You just slandered this dude. You have no name attached to it. And also, like, it should be art. Like, why can't we give our own opinion? Why do we have to lean into these scouts and be like, hey, can you say some crazy shit about these dudes?
Yeah. So I really early on in my career, I was in a press box with a scout, and this was 2012. And the scout was taking me through some of the most overrated, underrated players. We're just having like a meal. You know how it goes. The scouts are just hanging around in the press box. And the scout was like, Richard Sherman. This was after his breakout season. He was like, Richard Sherman talked his way into stardom. He sucks. He sucks. And so I'm like this naive 20 something. And I'm like, well, a scout said it. So I'm shorting Richard Sherman. And then, like, I didn't have some platform to like tweet that Richard Sherman sucked. But like in my head, I'm walking around being like, I got this sourced info that Richard Sherman sucks. And then it turns out that Richard Sherman was one of the best corners of his generation. He won one Super Bowl, should have won another. Absolute you want to talk about football genius, it's him. Like, and it was just this one opinion. And it's like, oh, wait, you know what? Some scouts are morons. I'm looking in the camera for the YouTube audience. Some scouts are morons. I feel like we need.
I thought you were about to say, Kyle, turn on the TikTok camera. I thought you were about to.
I can't get on TikTok, because otherwise that would ruin my algorithm of Franz highlights and WWE Attitude.
Oh yeah, so go back to Franz. The leap, the skeptical Scott said leap was not made.
Yeah, a leap was not made. I completely disagree. He can do pretty much anything you want on the court. He drives, off ball, on the ball. He's really good, and there's a couple of shortcomings that the team had last year. Like the ball movement was not as good as the talent of the passers, right? And this is a team that I was looking at the player tracking data before I came on here. 5th fastest team on defense by miles per hour, 10th top 10 on offense, 6th in points off drives, but then they don't pass off the drives. Only the Grizzlies had fewer passes off drives last year. I believe they were bottom 5 in just literally number of passes. The ball movement could be a hell of a lot better. And you see that with the spacing. And maybe, I think we're going to talk about potential moves here down the road, but like maybe they need just a couple guys who can help with the space. But the way Franz and Paolo operate in tight quarters and the spatial awareness is really special. And I feel like they have the capability to be unguardable in a couple of years, especially if they make the moves that we're expecting them to make. Paolo's efficiency needs to go up. We can get into that. Even as I think he was one of the worst 2-point shooters in the league last year. The shooting just needs to get better. But just from the profile of that these guys are playing, there's going to be a leap, and it's going to happen every single year. And one year, and it may not be this year, this team in the parlance of NBA Twitter is going to be a problem.
So they're both going to be multiple-time All-Stars.
That's correct.
As a floor. I will give you this. One of them will make their first All-Star team either this season or next season. Within the next 2 seasons, the Magic are going to have an All-Star representative in Indianapolis or wherever the next game is. So here's the optimistic Magic case. 34-48 last year, but 29-28 after a 5-20 start. That's one game over 500.
Depending on how you look at it, a top 5 defense during that stretch.
Could be a top. They were 5th or 6th in points allowed per possession. Their scoring differential, if you want to poo-poo the 29-28, was minus 45 in that 29-28 stretch. But if you want to poo-poo the poo-pooers, their last 3 games where they played Bull, Chuma Okeke, me, and you, they were minus 54 alone in those 3 games. So they're plus before then. So that looks like a pretty real sample of 500 basketball. Now, here are the over-unders for the teams that I mentioned, the Vegas over-unders. This is how bunched up this is. And I have no idea how to project these 5 teams. Orlando, 36.5. Brooklyn, 36.5. Toronto, 36.5. Mm-hmm. Chicago, 37.5. Indiana, 38.5. The bad news for you, win projections by the nerds, John Hollinger and Kevin Pelton. Orlando for Hollinger, only 32.
Hollinger hates this Magic team. Did you read his thing?
Yes. Orlando for Pelton, only 35. Both of them have the Nets and the Raptors in the 40s, and Indiana around 39, 37. Orlando is the worst in the nerd win projections of these two humans, which makes me, look twice. And so I want you to sit here and go team by team. We'll start just with make the Magic case, and then we'll go team by team. Why you are better, why the Magic are going to beat or outwin at least some of these teams.
All right, we'll start with the Magic case. First of all, speaking of Kevin Pelton, he came on, I believe, this show last year. And you and I talked about the floor that Paolo has because he can get to the line. And maybe he'll get officiated differently as his career progresses. But right now he gets to the line, he drives to the basket. And the guys who get that many free throws this early in their career tend to be not just stars, but superstars, if you just look at the raw numbers there. But Pelton said the efficiency was generally similar to Durant's rookie year efficiency when the year that he came in the league and was carrying the load. And that they were like, hey, we don't know what to do. We don't have a coherent offense. You do everything. We'll see what happens.
The late great Seattle Supersonics.
Yes, of course. And so I think that there's a case to be made that once this offense gets a little more molded, once we have an identity with the starting 5 and the units, and Franz takes the leap, and then the 2 rookies who are Joe Ingles is, I'm not saying Joe Ingles is the reason Paolo's going to make a leap, but like Joe Ingles and Jet Howard obviously are able to shoot space. We just have some of that now. Anthony Black looks awesome so far, uber athletic. Bruce Feldman with this amazing piece that basically he would have been like a unbelievable college wide receiver if he chose that path. And that's what I love to hear about my ultra athletic top 10 picks. And so I think there's going to be a leap. I think that there's going to be a style of play where we sort of understand it. Franz and Paolo played so well together last year. And they're so flexible. And speaking of Chris Mannix, like I think that one of his anonymous scouts, and I'll allow this one because it's positive, like you can use Paolo as sort of I mean, he's the young version of this, obviously, but in the same way the Bucks use Giannis, where you can really put him on anybody. You can put him on any place on the floor. The versatility is there. And so really this is up to Coach Mosley to figure out how to mold this, but I feel like they're only going to get better. This is the worst and least efficient this Magic team will be last year, where they made a 12-win leap. And so at some point they're going to make another leap like that, and it's going to happen this year into the playoff game.
Well, you mentioned the versatility of Paolo, your Team USA, who did not do all that well at the FIBA World Cup, but he was their backup center, screening, rolling, diving, stuff he doesn't
defense,
get to
absolutely. Totally committed to defense. And we already know what the defense looks like. Do you know when the last time the Magic had a top 10 offensive rating?
Well, I mean, the stat that you and I talk about, I'm a little actually worried that it's going to be 2028 and we're still going to be talking about this. They have not, forget top 10. They have not been in the top 20,
11 years.
Since 2012. That is a streak of such staggering impotence. Like you just would luck into the 18th best offense. What? No. And they're going to be bad again. Like this is why Hollinger hates the
there's
team.
a defensive floor and the offense can only get better is what I'm saying. That's the optimistic case. I will say with the 2012 thing, they played the Pacers that year in the playoffs and lost. And I just started dating my now wife, and I said, hey, I briefed her. We were at a restaurant watching the Pacers, and I said, hey, when the Magic make the Eastern Conference Finals, not this year, but any year in our relationship, I'm going to fly down to Orlando, one-way ticket. I'm not coming back until they're out of the playoffs. And she was like, I agree to this. And we, not only have they not even come close, we are married, we have a child, and we live in a house north of the city after living in 2 other cities. Like that's how long it's been since the Magic had a top half offense. We're going to be in a nursing home, and I'm going to fly down to the Magic.
But your point about the versatility of Banchero is fun. I'm interested to see how that looks when Mo Wagner is kind of the stretch-ish 5. I want to see the Isaac Banchero 4-5 combination. If Jonathan Isaac just play. I don't know how he helps the offense at all, what position he is, what he's going to do on offense, but defensively he's just a monster. But in any case, and they're going to have to stagger Wagner and Banchero because the offense will die without one of them on the floor, and they'll do all that stuff. All right, so take me team by team. Let's go team by team, and we'll just play a game of Magic fan tells me why this team is no good, and we'll start with the Brooklyn Nets. Tell me why this team is no good and or worse than the Orlando Magic.
So is this Ben Simmons Australia Esquire cover real? Have you seen this?
Yes, I saw some tweets shirtless. I don't know if he ever wears a shirt. How'd they get a shirtless pic of Ben Simmons? Does he only wear a shirt during basketball games and just in regular life
he's just walking
around without a shirt?
Do you think he's pitched the Nets on like a skins night? Where that's the next, if Nike can't figure out what to do with their jerseys, that's the next step.
All right. So, but look, jokes aside, he looks actually good. He's going to start. I'm skeptical of the Simmons Claxton thing on offense, but they're going to start him. And off the bench, they have like actual good NBA players. Royce O'Neal, Finney Smith. They'll keep one of Simmons and Dinwiddie on the floor. Day'Ron Sharpe, backup 5. They got a bunch of like other random guys that are all pretty. The Lonnie Walker, Dennis Smith, Cam Thomas, blah, blah. They're not. That's like, I don't know what they kind of are ballsy in that the gap between their ceiling and their floor is just like, this is very small, but I think they're okay. 38 to 42 wins seemed fine to me.
I think they're fine, but what you're describing, and I was controlling this with the Bulls too, where the ceiling is unfortunately, I hate to use this term, but the ceiling is mediocrity. The ceiling is mediocrity. The ceiling on the Magic is so freaking high. Now, it might not be this year, it might be the year after, but it only takes a little bit for these guys to unlock their potential. The other thing is, like, Hollinger really murdered the offense, and that's fine. But he also said, remember, there's a couple expirings here on that roster that could be pushed in the middle of the table. Hollinger threw out Malcolm Brogdon as a possibility that would unlock some things for the Magic. I think there's other guys who are probably on the table. We can get to that, but like, the ceiling on the Magic is significantly higher than a bunch of the teams you're naming here.
I long term totally agree. I think Wendell Carter Jr. is now the most underrated player in the NBA. They have like
really?
Yeah.
Are you just being nice?
No, I think I'm a huge Wendell Carter.
No, I know I am too. But I didn't think he was going to get the Zach Lowe most underrated player in the NBA. He could
walk down the street in New York or Los Angeles and people would be like, that guy's pretty tall. Nobody would even know who he was. That's how underrated he is. They had their guards, like Karl-Anthony missed a bunch of games last year. They had a lot of guys. Yeah. But it's really going to come down to me. The biggest, like the Suggs and Isaac pieces, like, are they guys or are they just not going to be guys? Suggs, and by the way, on Suggs, like he's not going to be gifted this starting job forever anymore. They have competition coming for him.
Okay, so the Suggs thing is interesting because he's a tenacious defender and he's going to have a nice NBA career. And I mean, elite, like an absolute lockdown defender. Does he provide enough offense in that backcourt to help the Magic this year? I don't know. And then you get into what does he become a trade piece where it's like, okay, we can package this together and he still has value. I think that he's going to get better as a shooter, but he's not going to get all that much better. He has gotten better, by the way. I think there's a ceiling on him, but he is going to find a place in the NBA as someone you do not want to see across from you if you're a guard.
Chicago. Kobe White's going to start, which is interesting. Levine, DeRozan, Williams for now, Vucevic. Off the bench, Caruso, bunch of stagger starter minutes. Drummond, Torrey Craig's going to be the backup for. It's just so It's That's all.
So it's funny. I was just on the phone with my Bulls buddy, Andy Johnson. He runs the Friday, great golf website. And we were talking about this, and I was like, give me the best case you can make for the Bulls. He said the problem for the Magic, for a team like the Magic, is that the Bulls strive for mediocrity. That's the goal. And the Magic are building something significant. The Bulls are actually like taking dead aim at the playoff, and that's what they want. Like that, they're like, we got to get this 9 seed. We're so into this 9 seed. So that's our what if we get distracted during our build on the way to the play-in game this year, and all of a sudden the Bulls box us out? That's the risk. But first of all, you talk about Carter. Carter's better than Vooch right now, and he was more or less a throw-in in that trade. I just don't see. Maybe I'm overrating our own talent. I'm happy to be accused of that, but I just see a better 1 through 5. I mean, you made the case for the Bulls.
I mean, I just look, the Levine, DeRozan, Vooch has more or less been like a plus or minus 0 in 2+ seasons together. They just don't play that well together. The Bulls, I think, are optimistic that Kobe White, again, nobody cares, nobody watched. Kobe White got meaningfully better last season. They think he can help with that group. Patrick Williams, extension talks are going to be interesting. Their bench has if they can't unlock that starting 5 to be better than just neutral, I just don't see how they're anything other than, again, like they're over under, like high 30s wins. Toronto's got some dudes. I mean, they're going to start Schroeder, Barnes, Anunoby, Siakam, Pirtle. Those 4 with Van Vliet were fantastically effective. Without Van Vliet in limited minutes, those 4 were not good. Barnes, Anunoby, Siakam, Pirtle. And like Van Vliet to Schroeder is a meaningful drop-off. And the bench is like Gary Trent Jr. and a bunch of just walking question marks. Like, who's the backup point guard? Is Malachi Flynn going to play? Chris Boucher, Precious Achiuwa, like they're all interesting, kind of up and down, whatever. Jalen McDaniels, I think, should get minutes. Grady Dick maybe will struggle to get minutes at first. I don't know. It's an interesting team. The stats nerds love him. Low to mid 40s. Sure. I mean, I guess I don't know. I don't know how. I don't love the fit of Barnes and Anunoby Siakam. They all kind of do similar stuff on offense. Their own GM called the whole team selfish like 2 weeks ago. They do. I should mention both the Nets and the Raptors do not owe their first round picks. They have no incentive to tank. Brooklyn owes to Houston, I think, and Toronto to the Spurs. So they'll try. I don't know. Just what do you think? No fear of the Raptors?
I mean, they have a higher ceiling than the other teams that we're describing right now. While I have you, since you know more about basketball than anybody on the planet, is Jet Howard over Grady Dick going to age poorly?
I will give you a good answer at the end of the season. That was was an interesting pick, though. That was one that, like, they do need shooting, and they really swung for shooting with Jet Howard.
I know. They really did. And
Anthony Black fits their profile
yes.
like a glove. Long, athletic. Can he shoot? We'll see.
You almost wonder if packaging 11 for a veteran shooter would have been a headier play, but they know a lot more.
Well, I mean, look, you've already mentioned the expirings, all the draft picks they have. They control all their own picks, and they could have up to like $80 million in cap space this summer. So, like, long term, at some point, I will say this, based on what I've heard, this is the last season of, hey, let's just see what we got here. You know, we got a bunch of young guys. Like, let's just see how we do. Like, this is the last year of that. If they get through this year,
are they going to rehire Scott Skiles like a couple years ago when they had a playoff mandate?
It won't be a coaching thing. It's not going to be. They love Mose. Mose is a good coach. It will.
I just remember the last time they gave a playoff mandate. It didn't go well.
Not playoff mandate, but it's just like if this is a 35-win team and they get 10th, 11th, 9th, 12th, whatever. They're going to do something this summer to try to really hit the gas. Like, they know they cannot just be like, they cannot sell this like, oh, we don't want to block any of our young guys. We want to see what they have. We're happy with it. Like, it can't last forever. I'll tell you, the team I'm most excited to watch out of this group is Indiana. I cannot wait to watch the Pacers.
There's a guy on Indiana that I was going to throw out as a potential piece here, so we can have this conversation all at once. Buddy, who now we're in this maybe second or third year of Buddy Hield would fit the Magic, and so he might be in the starting five of all Magic rumor team. With Eric Bledsoe was there for a while, Paul Millsap, CJ McCollum, all those guys were rumored to be Magic for many years.
So that's a great alternate team. I like that.
Well, Tim Duncan obviously is the captain, but that's a different era. I think Buddy would be the absolute home run fit for this team. What do you think about scoring? What do you think about spacing and just what he gives? And it's realistic too.
But I can already feel the nervousness emanating from Magic headquarters. But they're like, how are we going to learn about Jalen Suggs? We gotta learn about you. And like, I think Jalen Suggs, I'm with you. He is as rugged and tough of a guard as you're going to find. He just hasn't shot it well enough. And he hasn't not been a number one or even number two ball handler. And if you're neither of those things, it's kind of like, what are you on offense if you're a guard?
On this team that lacks 3-point shooting.
Yeah. And you need shooting around Wagner and Banchero. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, those guys are going to run your offense one way or another. So you need guards who can shoot. Fultz is one of the great comeback stories in the NBA, has turned himself into quite a good player. He's just kind of a weird fit still stylistically with this group, but he's a good player. He's a net positive, even for this Magic team. He's a net positive.
I got in a little bit of a text fight with Steve Cerruti the other day, another Magic fan that, is in Connecticut. And we were talking, he would not trade Fultz for one of these scorers. And I would. I love Fultz. He's one of the best stories, as you said, in basketball, most improved candidate pretty much every single year. But I would still be completely comfortable moving him.
When you say one of these scorers, who are you talking about?
I mean, Buddy Hield would be by far the most realistic option, right? And we mentioned.
I don't know if I would trade Fultz for Buddy Hield though.
No, you wouldn't. Okay, really? for the needs the Magic have.
I just like Fultz. Now he's extension eligible now on a $17 million number. Hield is also expiring on a $19 million number. And I don't think extension talks with the Pacers are going
I read that
swimmingly currently. That could always change. There's no deadline on either of these extensions. I just feel like Fultz has a chance to be a winning player. And I'm not as convinced that Buddy Hield, because of his limitations on defense, is a winning big stage player.
Interesting. So a couple things about that. Number one is especially the interior defense. I think we were top 5 in, I think no team after the All-Star break allowed less shots under 10 feet than the Magic last year. I think teams shot a lot of threes on them, but interior defense has never really been a problem. We can get our defense elsewhere. You mentioned the fit with Fultz. I just wonder how the pieces all fit together with the backcourt that doesn't score at an elite level. What do you think about John Hollinger's Malcolm Brogdon idea?
I think it's a good idea. I think you would, if you're looking for a short-term boost and you really want to make the play, and depending on what the price is, I think that's a fine idea. But again, it's going to block. I mean, it just is Karl-Anthony just not in the picture anymore for you long term?
No, long term, I wouldn't sign him to a significant. I would rather try to get trade value for him than commit huge money to him. You would know more than I do about what kind of money he would command, but I don't think that. I think with a core that's going to get very expensive very quickly, 2 max deals coming in the next few years, you just start to worry about guys getting money when they're not part of the whole thing.
I mean, Malcolm Brogdon is better than all the guards on the Magic right now. Is he better enough that you want to block them from learning more, from playing more, and you get to see more about? Maybe you're more comfortable blocking or moving a Karl-Anthony who's in the last year of his deal. I'll tell you though, restricted free agency next summer might not be so friendly for some of these guys who make it to restricted free agency. I'm going to talk about that with Bobby Marks a little more, but yeah, he'd help. I mean, it just depends how much you care about getting in the play-in this year.
I think that I don't care about playing in the actual game. I would probably fly down there, have a great time. For one of the games, I meet you and Cerruti at Chili's. But I don't think somewhere in central Connecticut we'll figure that out. But I think the play-in game is incidental to the growth. Does that make sense? Like, they're going to make the play-in because they're on a trajectory to be a top 6 seed the following year. And so I'm not looking at mile markers. I'm just saying if we take the growth step that I think we're going to take, we're going to make the play-in. So it's not, I don't want to raise a banner or buy a t-shirt or be like the Wolves a couple of years ago. It's more about, if these guys are the core we think they are, of course they're going to make the play-in.
So here's where I end up. I listed those 7. I said 1 or 2 of those 7 are going to be worse, maybe significantly worse than we expect, because that's just what happens in the NBA. I still think all 7 of those teams, Boston, Milwaukee, those top 7, are going to be better than Orlando. Just, that's not a hot take. That's just real life. If you're putting the proverbial Nerf gun to my head and you're asking me, is Orlando better than the following teams? I'm going Indiana. I think Indiana's a little better this year. Toronto, I think Toronto might be a little better this year. Brooklyn and Chicago are both close. If it's like a coin flip, are they top 10 or not? I think I would lean a little bit like to 11 or 12, but not out of reach. I like Indiana a lot. And those other teams are veteran heavy and gunning to win. It's good. The more I was gung-ho on the Magic, like over 36.5, play in or bust. And the more I looked at it, and the more I thought about it, I was like, it's a dicier bet than I thought. Like, I'm not as optimistic anymore that they're going to be top 10. I'm sorry to myself. This is a team I have such a soft spot for. But it's not like out of play by any means. It's like 51-49. It's just less of a chance that I thought.
Let me ask you this. We fast forward, we super sim to May or April, and they're 9th. Okay. What happened? Like, what happened with the Magic season that got them to 9, in your opinion, that you are not currently penciling in right now?
One of their guards makes a meaningful leap.
Sure.
Joe Ingles gives them legitimate 18 to 20 minutes off the bench of really good shooting, playmaking, pick and roll. All of a sudden, like, he's finding Banchero for lobs and doing the pass fake thing that he's clowned people with for years. Mo Wagner, A minus backup center, stabilizes that position. That's been sort of a revolving door for a while. Nothing big. Like, I'm not even factoring in Isaac. I'm just factoring in a nothing for nothing, but like, I don't know what to project for him. If he gives you anything, that's a plus. I just don't know what he is offensively. It's mostly that somewhere in the perimeter rotation, somebody hits big and somebody hits, like, Ingles hits small.
Yes. I mean, Ingles, I see the process behind Ingles and I love it. Like, we just need someone to sit back there and hit threes. That's great.
He might be the best. He might be the best passer on the team. Well, Fultz is probably the best. It's close. Like, he's
going to
that good
space
of
the floor and he's going to hit threes. It's going to be great.
Any parting Magic thoughts? I mean, look, long term, these two, like, the first thing I said was both these guys are going to be multiple time All-Stars as a floor. One of them is making one of the next two All-Star teams. Like, that's the foundation of the team. And Carter, I think Carter's there for a long time. I think that is a 3-man foundation to be thrilled with. They just need someone else who can dribble and shoot at a high level, and they don't have it yet. That's fine.
My only party Magic thought is you asked me to prepare my favorite Magic team ever, and I just want to shout out the 2008 team, the year before they made the finals, as my favorite team of all time.
Why is that your favorite team of all time?
All right. So this is going to be long-winded. I'm going to keep it as tight as possible. So they go from 96 to 2008 without winning a playoff series. In between, there were more rumors about whether or not they were going to move than the actual basketball team. And there were people, I don't know if it was like weird anti-tax money people or whatever. They would literally, people in Orlando would have like Kansas City Magic bumper stickers. As like a protest thing because they wanted the team to leave. I'm talking about a very, very small minority of people.
Shaq leaving in free agency is what precipitates all of this.
And then Tim Duncan not coming and leaving Tracy McGrady as a very good steward of the franchise, but not enough to win a playoff series, right? And like, there's a great quote from this guy, Jimmy Greaves, who was a soccer star in the 60s, who said that, like, people would come up to him and they would start to tell him stories about goals he scored. And then halfway through the story, he would start to realize they're really just telling a story about themselves. And it's like, oh, then I poured my drink on my buddy. And it's like, oh, it actually wasn't about the goal at all, right? And so what this team signified, it's kind of like what we're talking about right now it was a Magic team getting ready to get good. They beat the Raptors in their first round. And that was part of the growth of the team. It was important that they won the playoff series, but it was also just a sign that they were going to be really good the next year. And so we played Detroit in the next round. We had lost to Detroit. Obviously, they were our kind of playoff boogeyman. And they win game 3, a game I was not at. I was in college at this point. And the weekend afternoon game, we played Detroit, game 4. And Orlando was rocking in a way I never thought was going to be possible again after Shaq, because it never reached those heights during T-Mac, just because we knew what the ceiling on the franchise was. And for some reason, Orlando, the arena deal had been worked out. Everything was getting galvanized. Dwight Howard was obviously a superstar in the making. Tito had won Most Improved that year. Rashard Lewis was a good signing. We understood why they paid so much money. It was just a team getting better in front of everybody's eyes and a franchise that was staying in town. And I went to that game with my family, and it was Orlando gets really loud. I don't think people fully appreciate this. Orlando gets very, very, very loud, especially in the Shaq years, but certainly in the Dwight years as well. And there are people who say that's the loudest NBA building they've ever been into when they're good. And that's obviously few and far between, but in the last couple of years, but it is true, especially the older Orlando arena. And so they play this game. They go up really big on the Pistons in game 4. They end up losing the game. But I just remember vividly, like, Hito had a huge 3 with like 3 minutes to go. And the place just, it was as loud as I've ever heard it. And the fear I had as a young college kid was that was never going to happen again. Not just moving, but like the team may never be good again. And it's a similar feeling I have sometimes now where I'm just like, are we ever going to get the same highs that we had 15 years ago, 14 years ago? But to return to that, and it wasn't a return to glory yet, it was just a return to relevance and returning to a city that just loved the Magic. That to me was the most special afternoon I can remember, even more special than the finals next year, of which I went to every single game. And I think I missed one playoff game because of college. But like that year to me, where it was like, okay, we are back. We're on our way. Dwight's a star. We know what the core is. Again, a little similar to the season we're entering in this year. That to me, and they should have won the game. Hito drove late. Jason Maxiel fouled him. It was a no call. Rasheed Wallace, after a review, I remember very vividly, did like a captain's salute. I'll do it for the YouTube crowd. He did like a captain's salute to the whole crowd with his middle finger. And I don't think the cameras ever caught it. You can only see it in the arena. But it was quite a moment. But that game to me was the signifier that the Magic were ready to win again. And my sincere hope is we see that this year in the play-in against one of Zach Lowe's beloved, overrated Midwestern teams.
I love it. And we'll watch it at Chili's in Central Connecticut. That team was a fun team. It's one of the first stand team. And
Billy Donovan pulled out.
That's right.
The year before.
And the next two teams won 59 games apiece, 9 and 10. And that was a legit championship window. And it closed fast, but it was a real championship. I mean, they made the finals one year, and I thought they were the best team in the East in 2010. And the old geezer Celtics just geezered them out of the playoffs. Vince Carter missed a couple free throws. Here we are, all these years later, waiting for a top 20 offense in Orlando. Kevin Clark, just a multimedia superstar. Thank you for taking time out of your schedule to talk about our beloved Orlando Magic. Maybe this is the year. Maybe I
don't know if you get to say our beloved anymore after pegging them as 11th.
Well, we'll see. Maybe I'm trying to do. Remember how Perk like said that the Celtics should trade Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and then the Celtics made the finals, and Perk was like, "Oh, I motivated them. I just did it to the whole time I was motivating them. I'm just motivating the Magic. So if they're ninth, it will be because I motivated them by saying they were 11th. All right, Kevin Clark. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, buddy.